Philosophy and Thought. Part 5. The Natural Desire to Know. Gradually, explanations tied to gods, myths, and the mythical tendency to deify natural forces started to lose prestige. And at the same time, there was a growing interest in more rational and natural explanations that placed phenomena within the true sphere of nature where they belonged. This transformation initiated a process that would later lead to modern science. But at that moment, albeit in a very incipient way, the intention was to attribute natural forces as the causes, effects, and all that happens, leaving aside myth and religion as explanatory criteria. This pertains to a deeply ingrained tendency in humans, which Aristotle called the desire to know. Every man naturally desires to know. This phrase or thesis is central to Aristotle's philosophy and his theory of knowledge. It tells us that knowledge is not something that occurs accidentally or in the course of human evolution, but something that we already bring with us, and therefore it would be what current psychologists would refer to as an innate tendency. Of course, Aristotle and the Greeks did not use this term, but they considered this desire and proclivity towards knowledge to be essential. There is, then, a certain mental and logical capacity which designates our brain, our mind, towards acquiring knowledge. Therefore, it becomes necessary to establish the parameters in which this will be done. These knowledge techniques, these methods, will be implemented especially during the phase when Aristotle plays a leading role in Greek philosophy, driven by this inherent human desire to understand. And remember that this desire is universal. There is no human being who is not moved by the desire to know. And therefore, knowledge is part of the realization of human potentialities. This cognitive drive was, for Aristotle, the most fundamental impulse towards the development of knowledge. Hence, he sought to realize it in all areas of knowledge. Within this framework, the legitimacy of knowledge presents itself. There is no doubt that knowledge is possible. There is no doubt that it is possible to know throughout the extent of reality, whether it is physical knowledge or beyond the physical, and even the knowledge of divine things. All of this is part of the same will to know that expands progressively through the methods and techniques that will be put into action, so that this potentiality can then become effective, become real. With this, we see that knowledge, dating back to Aristotle, has solidified itself as the main activity and the key factor defining the essence of being human. The ability to think, to reason, and to understand natural processes from a rational and scientific standpoint, no longer from a mythical or religious one. Thus, knowledge, so to speak, descends to earth and expands through experiences and observations, always guided by logical criteria that are part of human mind, of human reason. Aristotle was a very important author in consolidating all these procedures. We owe to him the innovation of what we understand as logic, the science of ways of thinking. All thought stems from the reality that we observe and also assimilate, but the form of the thought comes from ourselves, from logic that is inherent to our reason. This is why knowledge consists of both observable, empirical materials, which we experience and learn from, and also logical forms innate to our intellect. Both sensible and intellectual knowledge are necessary stages for the will to know to be realized. But first and foremost, you need to have this potential. Aristotle places a lot of importance on the fact that everything that is going to happen is primarily in potentiality, that is, the knowledge is in potentiality within us, in our will to know. In order for these forms of knowledge to be potentially possible, because in some way they are part of human nature, or the desire to know, it is necessary that all the diversity of reality be encompassed by these techniques and these procedures of knowledge. Aristotle was the first to identify the diversity of knowledge present in reality. Many think that he established a sort of encyclopedic knowledge, since he paid attention to various aspects and not just the metaphysical unity of reality. Hence, he was very focused on empirical observation, where the truly effective aspects of reality are present in their differences from each other. Therefore, science for Aristotle already encompasses not just a certain theoretical unity of reality, but all its possible differences, each of which corresponds to specific knowledge or an experimental science among those to be developed later.